The book attacked the idea that looking after the poor could be left to voluntary action. Ron Paul should read this. Charity is a cold, grey, loveless thing. If a rich man wants to help the poor, he should pay his taxes gladly, not dole out money at a whim. He went on to write, in a civilized nation, although it may be composed of self-reliant individuals, there are some persons who will be unable, at some period of their lives, to look after themselves, and the question of what is to happen to them may be solved in three ways. They may be neglected. They may be cared for by an organised community as a right, as a member of the nation, or they may be left to the goodwill of individuals in the community. The first is intolerable, and as for the third, charity is only possible with the loss of dignity between equals. A right established by law, such as an old age pension, is less galling than an allowance made by a rich man to a poor one, dependent on his view of the recipient's character and determinable at his caprice. He strongly supported the popular rates rebellion led by George Lansby in 1921, and this put him into conflict with many leaders of the London Labour Party, including Herbert Morrison. Member of Parliament. At the 1922 general election, Atlee became the Member of Parliament for the constituency of Limehouse in Stepney. He helped Ramsay MacDonald, whom at the time he admired, get elected as Labour Party leader at the 1922 Labour leadership election, a decision that he later regretted. He served as Ramsay MacDonald's parliamentary private secretary for the brief 1922 election. His taste for a ministerial office came in 1924 when he served as Under Secretary of the State for War in the short-lived first Labour government led by MacDonald. Atlee opposed the 1926 general strike, believing that strike action should not be used as a political weapon. However, when it happened, he did not attempt to undermine it. At the time of the strike, he was chairman of the Stepney Borough Electricity Committee. He negotiated a deal with the electrical trade union that they should continue supply to hospitals but would end supplies to factories. One firm, Scammell and Nephew Limited, took civil action against Atlee and the other Labour members of the committee, although not against the Conservative members who had also supported this. The court found against Atlee and his fellow councillors, and they were ordered to pay £300 damages. The decision was later reversed on appeal, but the financial problems caused by the episode almost forced Atlee out of politics. In 1927, he was appointed member of the multi-party Simons Commission, a royal commission set up to examine the possibility of self-rule for India. That would create India as a dominion within the British Empire like Canada. This was not independence. As a result of the time he needed to devote to the commission, and contrary to a promise made to Atlee by MacDonald to induce him to serve on the commission, he did not initially offer a ministerial post. He was not initially offered a ministerial post in the second Labour government. However, his unsought service in the commission was to equip Atlee, who was later to decide the future of India as Prime Minister, with a thorough exposure to India and its political leaders. In 1930, Labour MP Oswald Mosley, who later created the fascist union, left the Labour Party after its rejection of his proposals for solving the unemployment problem. Atlee was given Mosley's post of Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster. He was Postmaster General at the time of the 1931 crisis, during which most of the party's leaders lost their seats. During the course of the second Labour government, Atlee had become increasingly disillusioned by Ramsay MacDonald, who he came to regard as vain and incompetent, and later wrote scathingly of him in his autobiography. Deputy leader of the Labour Party. After the downfall of the second Labour government, the 1931 general election was held. The election was a disaster for the Labour Party, which lost over 200 seats. Most of the party's senior figures lost their seats, including Arthur Henderson, the party leader. George Lansbury and Atlee were among the few surviving Labour MPs who had served in the government. Accordingly, Lansbury became leader of the party and Atlee became deputy leader. Atlee served as an acting leader for 9 months, from December to 1933, after Lansbury fractured his left thigh in an accident. This raised his public profile. During the period, financial problems again almost forced Atlee to quit politics, as his wife was ill. There was then no separate salary for the leader of the opposition. He was persuaded to stay on, however, by Stafford Cripps, a wealthy socialist who agreed to pay him an additional salary. Leader of the opposition. George Lansbury, a convinced pacifist, resigned as leader of in 1935 of the Labour Party in the Labour Party conference, after the party voted in favour of sanctions against Italy for its aggression against Abyssinia, that's near modern-day Ethiopia, a policy which Lansbury strongly opposed. With a general election looming, the Parliamentary Labour Party then appointed Atlee as interim leader on the understanding that a leadership election would be held after the general election. Atlee led Labour through the 1935 general election, which saw the party stage a partial recovery from its disastrous performance in 1931, gaining over 100 seats. In the post-election leadership contest held in November 1935, Atlee was opposed by Herbert Morrison and Arthur Greenwood. Morrison was seen as a favourite by many, but was distrusted by many sections of the party, especially the left, after Greenwood's leadership bid was hampered by his alcohol problem. Atlee came first in both the first and second ballots, and subsequently retained the leadership, a post which he would retain until 1955. So he was a strong political leader, though Clement Atlee. Throughout the 1920s and most of the 1930s, the Labour Party's official policy, supported by Atlee, was to oppose rearmament and support collective security under the League of Nations, as the forerunner to the UN. However, with the rising threat from Nazi Germany, as National Socialist Germany, and the ineffectiveness of the League of Nations, this policy lost credibility. By 1937, Labour had jettisoned its pacifist position and came to support rearmament and opposed Neville Chamberlain's policy of appeasement. In 1937, Atlee visited Spain and visited the British battalion of the International Brigade known fighting in the Spanish Civil War. One of the companies was named in honour of Atlee, the Major Atlee Company, Deputy Prime Minister. Atlee remained opposition leader when the war broke out in 1939, with the failure of the Polish corridor scheme between Adolf Hitler and the leaders of the Polish government, which inevitably led to the invasion of Danzig by the Polish government, and the National Socialist Germany attacking and defeating Poland, which then brought Britain into the war on the Polish side. Later, the Soviet Union would invade Poland as well from the east in alliance with Nazi Germany, and Britain would make an alliance with the Soviet Union, although it should have been fighting both Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union.